Could I have your attention, please? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I feel like I'm at a monster truck rally. Thanks to everyone for coming out today. I'm going to back off a little bit now that I have your attention. This is the 2017 Martin Luther King Day event here at the Chicoine Center. I'm humbled and awed to have all of you with us here today. We have a list of people that we need to thank, and I'm just going to go through it fairly quickly, and I'll probably forget someone. Let's begin with Wendy Marr for early on agreeing to help me do this crazy stuff and bringing the singers along, and that's really important to me. I want to thank the three principals, Ewing, Cogdill, and Dressel, for bringing the schools. I want to thank, in order, Jovan Mays, Janice Haynes, David Christensen, Mike Kennedy, and Shonda French for putting on panels this morning. I want to thank the Diversity Committee, Student Senate, Residents Life Association, and the Social Science Club for funding this event. And that ends my thank yous. What we're going to have today is we're going to have the superintendent of the Chadron Public Schools, Caroline Winchester, come up and give a brief remark. We're going to have Dean Joel Heyer from Chadron State College speaking on behalf of President Randy Ryan, who was called away on official business today. Then we're going to have Jovan Mays speak for a little while. Jovan Mays is a CSC alumni. He's one of my favorite people on the earth. He's the Poet Laureate of Aurora. He's a National Poetry Slam champion, a TED speaker, and an overall incredible individual. He's going to share a little bit of his insight and wisdom with us. Then we're going to have the Cardinal Singers and the Junior Cardinal Singers perform. And finally, we're going to have Dr. Hillary Potter, who I'm really, really thrilled to be bringing to campus. She's a sociologist at the University of Colorado Boulder. Her work is complicated, it's vital, it's profound, it's on intersectionality and criminality, and I'm not going to talk about it, but if you want to learn more, and you should, at 3:30 p.m. we're going to have a panel back at the ballroom where Dr. Potter is going to talk about her research, and hopefully we'll have a really robust conversation about some of the things we've been talking about today. So, who's in kindergarten? I feel you. We're going to move this right along. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming Superintendent Caroline Winchester to the stage.
Well, I too would like to echo his thanks. I think particularly to Chadron State College, Dean Heyer, Dr. Nesheim, and the committee. I think for including Chadron Public School and its students. I think this event is very unique, and it allows us to reflect on Dr. King's leadership, which inspired others to do the right thing. Big thank you to Wendy Marr and our middle school and high school students for the music today and sharing their musical talents today as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King. One brief thing I think that I remember I think is important that Dr. King's commitment, I think, to positive political and social activism through nonviolence is certainly as applicable today as it was in the 60s. So thank you very much for this opportunity that we can spend a little time reflecting in Dr. King's role model for the rest of us.
Good afternoon. I'm looking out to see if I can find my kids and if they're behaving. I think I see a couple of them. This is a good sign. It looks like they're behaving. All right. Wow. What a great looking group we got here. It's fantastic. On behalf of Chadron State College, I would like to welcome each of you today We're thrilled to have you here. It's really an honor. This is truly a day of celebration and hope. It's a happy day, and that's pretty obvious to see because I can see it in your eyes. It's also a day of reflection and recommitment, for we know and recognize the work of justice is not done. The work of justice is not yet done. For me, as I reflect on Dr. Martin Luther King and others who so bravely worked on behalf of others, in fact, generations unborn, I'm reminded once again of the value of the individual. Each person has great value and potential, and I know each of you has great value and great potential. As we recognize this, together we can build an even better and brighter future. So once again, welcome to Chadron State College. Thank you.
Good afternoon, y'all. Happy MLK Day. Please give it up to all the folks who were instrumental in getting all these wonderful folks here today for this celebration, all the educators, all the organizers. Give them a round of applause for creating this today. I would simply like to share a poem with you today that I have constructed. I constructed it during my time here when I was a student at Chadron State, around Dr. King. Let's get it going. So I lied there listening to I Have a Dream, wondering, how could this be? I mean, such a dream in a scheme unseen, with so many clouds in the gleam. How could he have this dream? I mean, this dream. Conspired of all of these things, where did Martin seem to find esteem or even the self-esteem to let his words rise high like the cream or flow steady just like an ancient stream? I guess I'm just bamboozled, looking at the odds against. How could you dream while you try to break a racial fence with all suspense? How could you even sleep, yet alone dream, to climb a slope so steep? How could a man dream while breaking racial fences? How could a man dream while fearing consequences through the strife, failure, but most of all fear, man? Forget dreams, because I would have had nightmares. Because it's like after the Civil War, they told blacks to pack their things and go and live the dream without no protection. And as they fought through racial screens, they were caught in between what seemed to be perplexion. And Jim Crow stood taller than any other master, and the Ku Klux Klan ran town to disaster. Black blood runs through these streets faster and faster, leaving them wondering, where's the here and after? There's people hanging high from trees, and they can hear Cinque crying, just let me be, just let me be, just let me see, let me have the life that you promised me. I mean, come on. How could you have a dream? As 14-year-old Emmett floats down the stream, white fire hoses turned on jet stream, blasting blacks in the streets along with their dreams, creating a situation so extreme. I mean, it's like they caught Martin so high in his prime. Seemed like everything was fine with the Little Rock Nine, but still more blacks were carried away in hearses, and still more fire blazed through the windows of southern churches, and still more black men were hanging from southern birches. You watch as the situation rapidly starts to worsen. It's a Sunday morning at the 16th Baptist Church, and 4 young girls are getting ready for Sunday school class. The adults in congregation get ready for some words until they're detached by a deafening blast. Boom! Dreams clashing. What happened? Who's clapping? 4 young girls, they deadened the rebel. Never did any wrong, never caused any trouble, but still victims in this constant racial struggle, leaving their freedom in hands that juggle. And Martin has this dream, incarcerated behind Birmingham bars while German shepherds sinks their canines into our skin, and we're jailed for simple lunch counter sit-ins. But Martin seems to think that things will get better as his wife Coretta receives his terrorist letters. Well, the Brown beat the board and we're marching up in Selma, but it just seems like Martin is setting them up for failure. And Rosa Parks just wants to get comfortable, but she doesn't know that the police can stop her flow. And meanwhile, 13 preachers ride buses to Freedom Spread, and they're bombed and beaten, while Martin, tucked in so neatly, lies in bed, dreaming. Someone tell me how. It's a sunny day, late August, and the wind is blowing. The leaves are changing colors and children's faces are glowing. Black faces and white faces meet to march for freedom, so much mixture of color that you could hardly see them. 250,000 gathered in our nation's capital for jobs and justice. For once, Martin saw that this time was his. No policemen were there to harass and rough us as a black man stood out his chair and said something like this 50 years ago. A man in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Martin delivered what is to be considered the greatest speech of all time, rocking minds from Atlantic to Pacific coastal lines. And for that brief moment, the blind had sight, the weak had might, the dark had light, the wrong went right, but most of all, the black and white had to unite despite all the lynchings and all the bad history, all the slave ships and all the black misery, all the unjust hits and all the sad tyranny. And Martin said we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. And at that brief moment, ever so strapping, all his predecessors in heaven were stood up clapping. From Cinque to Banneker, Garrison to Turner, from Franklin to Lincoln, Garver to Sojourner, from John Brown to Harriet, Du Bois to Frederick, all those lost souls sitting right in the middle, those lost souls that forced the water to ripple. After 344 years, they were finally here, and they sang, "Keep your eyes on the prize, oh Lord," because that's what they did. Kept their heads in the sky and they never hid. Face to face with the pain, they never slid. Instead, they lived. They went from pitchforks to podiums, picking to the promised land, property to politics, principles to policies, prayers to praise, whip to wise, lashings to lethal. And they never disguised. They came from behind, and that little light, they let it shine, shined so bright that it lit up the screen, touched minds up, back, and in between, all because of one thing, all because of one king, all because of one dream. It leaves me wondering, how? Thank you very much.
So a lot of firsts for me. My name's Hillary Potter. I'm a professor at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and I live in Denver, Colorado. I've never been here, so I'm really happy to be here in Chadron, Nebraska. It's the first time. And the first time I've spoken to such beautiful young minds, most of you. Justice. Justice can take on many forms in our societies. Justice can be viewed in many ways. Dr. Martin Luther King faced, questioned, and provided solutions regarding justice in his short lifetime. From 1955 to 1965, Dr. King was arrested nearly 30 times. Although he engaged in non-violent actions, he resisted oppression of others, and he refused to go along with injustice. And as we know, his actions regarding justice are still relevant today. Whether it be environmental justice, justice in the criminal legal system, racial justice, economic justice, or more broadly, social justice. We think of matters of justice as one person or group against the other, but we don't have to be divided. We can be and are different, and we come from different places. We are diverse. We are diverse. We must embrace our differences and unique qualities. We must respect our differences and unique qualities. But to embrace and respect differences and uniqueness does not mean to accept harm towards others. Often we hear and use the shortened phrasing from biblical writings, an eye for an eye. This is often translated to mean that if someone harms another, that same harm must be inflicted on the harmer in order for justice to be done. Dr. King wrote, and others have also stated similar sentiment, quote, the reason I can't follow the old eye for an eye philosophy is that it ends up leaving everyone blind, end quote. Of course, we take this blindness, to which Dr. King refers, not in the literal sense, but to consider what it means to use harm against the harmer. This is not to say that the harmer should not be held responsible for the harm they did. In fact, this is exactly what we must do. We must hold people responsible for calling someone a racist name, like the N-word, for making fun of someone because they have a body type different than what is believed to be normal, for enacting a policy that makes it more difficult for people living in poverty to afford a place to live, and so on. So we must figure out a way to address those types of harms and all types of harms. But it is how we hold someone responsible that we really must rethink. There are so many harms we inflict on each other, as I just laid out for you. So this is indeed a difficult task. It is difficult to figure out how to deal with someone who physically hurts another. It is difficult to figure out how to deal with someone who engages in bullying. It is difficult to figure out how to deal with politicians who will harm members of our society by taking away certain health care benefits. It is difficult to figure out what to do with someone who is addicted to drugs and commits crimes to pay for these drugs. So I could go on and on, but might our society be better off if the person who has done the harm is still treated with humanity while still being held responsible for the harms they caused? Or if the person who has done the harm is educated on all the ways their actions adversely affect others? So education. I am an educator. We are all educators, right? We all teach each other. For the previous 7 days, I was in Pennsylvania for a training for college professors on teaching classes inside jails and prisons. These college courses comprise students from the professor's campus and students serving a sentence in prison and jail. I was interested in the training because for the past 20 years, I have taken my students at my college and the other colleges I've taught at to visit jails and prisons as part of some of the courses I teach. The training that I took in the past 7 days included interacting with men incarcerated in a Pennsylvania prison. 3 of the days of the training we were there at the prison all day long. The training was exhausting for various reasons. And one day in the prison, when we had to reflect on the day, I passed on sharing a reflection stating, "I have no reflections, I'm overwhelmed." I was overwhelmed by wondering, as I've done most of my life, of the true purpose of imprisonment. Many of us get overwhelmed in the work we do, whether it's the type of work I do as a criminologist or any type of work we do around issues of social justice. Many of us get overwhelmed with this work because we want to make a life better for ourselves, our communities, and the children who will grow up in this society. Lately, particularly because of the advancement in technology and the way and the amount of information that is shared, I know even our youngest children are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with all the icky stuff going on in the world. But I was reminded by one of the incarcerated men I met last week about using our feelings, our distraught feelings about injustices in our societies to keep us moving to just societies. This 42-year-old African-American man has been incarcerated in prison since the age of 15. And unless he is resentenced to a shorter sentence, he will be in prison until he dies. He is a demonstration that lessons can be learned in many places and from many people. 2 days after I made my comment about being overwhelmed, and we were back in the prison saying our goodbyes, this man said to me, "Stay overwhelmed," but not in the negative sense, in the positive sense. It is this lesson we must remember when we face personal struggles, community struggles, national struggles, and world struggles. In our continued fight for justice of all kinds, we will be overwhelmed, but we must use that for good, for the good of ourselves and of the just, healthy lives we want our children of this country and of this world to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was something. This brings us to the end of our event, and I am a little overwhelmed. I think that's incredible. That's incredible advice, right? It's a scary, complicated, crazy world out there. But that's the world we live in, right? All right, let's make it a better world each and every day. You guys have a great time. At 3:30, you can join us back in the ballroom. And then at 7, there's going to be an open mic back at the ballroom at the Student Center. So from 7 to 10, by all means, come back out and get a good meal in between. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.